So for my senior project, I looked into how blood sugar levels affect the well-being of high school students. So blood sugar is affected in many ways through exercise, sleep, stress, and nutrition. And in this presentation, I'm diving into the nutrition part of this. Little background to my study before I get into it. So blood sugar, pretty simple. It's the measure of glucose within your blood. And glucose is what makes up all carbohydrates. An example of a carbohydrate is starch, which is found in potatoes and pasta. And starch is made up of a bunch of glucose molecules that are binded together. And once you eat this starch, it's broken down into those glucose, and that's what blood sugar is measured off of. So healthy blood sugar is when it stays around your average consistently, and it doesn't spike too high or dip too low, and this is when the problems occur. So a big problem today is many people think just because they're healthy and fit and they don't have conditions like type 2 diabetes, then they can disregard their blood glucose. But this is far from the truth because blood glucose levels affect everyone. Although age, lifestyle, and genetics do play a role, every single person, no matter all of these factors, will be affected by this. So especially high school teens, as they're notoriously bad at making food decisions for themselves. I am part of that problem, and I'm working to fix that right now. But some of the bad things that can occur with high blood sugar levels and constant glucose spikes are some chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and insulin resistance. Many people think that because they don't have any of these conditions, then they're healthy and that they don't need to worry about their blood sugar levels because, hey, I don't have any of these conditions. But that is far from the case because there are many negative effects that occur on the daily basis, such as anxiety, jitteriness, and brain fog, and tiredness, and also hunger can all be linked to either blood glucose being too high or too low. So that it is of the utmost importance for everyone of all age groups, especially high schoolers, though, to measure and to be cautious of their glucose levels. I mentioned that when you get out of your range, your normal range of glucose, it's called a glucose spike. So when your blood sugar gets too high, you have a sugary drink or too many carbs in a meal, your blood sugar will peak really high. And because of this, insulin will be secreted just that high as well. Because of this, stress is put on the pancreas, which is responsible for the secretion of this insulin. Over time, your cells can become resistant to this insulin's response, causing insulin resistance and the need to take supplemental insulin. And in some extreme cases, it can also lead to pancreatic failure, which is a very harmful chronic condition. And after this large spike comes a deep valley or a dip. And at these dips, where you have less blood sugar than you need, you'll feel hungry, and you'll also feel those feelings of anxiety and drowsiness. And the larger the spike is, the deeper the valley is, and the more of those negative effects you'll feel. So all of that sounds pretty intimidating and pretty confusing to kind of regulate. But I have a few tips, a few easy tips to share that will really help, along with the information about all these different food types, to help you regulate your blood glucose levels. So my first and most favorite tip to tell everyone is the order of which you eat. If you eat the fiber in your meal, and fiber is the greens, the salad, the vegetables, if you eat that before everything else in your meal, then your blood sugar will stay much more stable than that if you would have eaten the carbs first in your meal. I constructed these graphs based on averages I've seen in my research, as well as corroborating them with the graphs I've seen in my book. And you can see here, if you would eat the pasta first, your blood glucose would spike significantly more than that of the salad. So I encourage you all, when we go to eat, you see the salad here, we'll eat that first before we go to the bread and the pasta. And your blood glucose will look more like this, more drawn out, more gradual, less of that insulin response and less of the valley at the end. Another easy tip to go by is the timing of which you eat. If you eat too close to bed, it will harm your sleep quality. So a good rule of thumb is not to eat within 2 hours of the at minimum within bedtime. So if you eat within this 2 hours, your blood glucose will start to spike near the time you go to bed and then start to crash. And then you'll feel those feelings of anxiety and jitteriness before bed, decreasing your sleep quality. And what's even more is the next day, because you had poor quality of sleep, you'll have elevated blood sugar levels because you'll be more stressed. And stress is positively correlated with blood sugar. Also, you want to eat. If you eat right before you are moving or you exercise, it would be greatly beneficial to everyone. So say you eat a meal and then 30 minutes after you just go for a walk. That glucose you just ate in the meal will be burned right away from this activity. So you don't have to go to the gym, go work out, go for a run, but rather just a walk, as you can see here in this graph. If you walk just 30 minutes after eating a meal, your spike will be decreased significantly. So another pretty easy tip, but definitely something that everyone should know, is not all sugar is equal uh, in regards to how it spikes your glucose. So a big difference is liquid versus solid sugar. Say you have a soda versus the same sugar in another dessert, that soda will spike your blood glucose much more due to the ease at which sugar is digested in your body. Um, Liquid sugar goes straight into the bloodstream, spiking your glucose significantly more than that of the solid food, which is why as we go to eat, I do suggest staying away from the Gatorade and the liquid sugar in that, because that is, even though it is zero sugar, it's still less healthy than that of the sugar found in the other parts of our meal. Another part is refined and complex carbs. So carbs, I mentioned, are made up of glucose, and refined carbs are the processed sugars you find in fast foods or in any candies. But complex carbs are found in more of your more whole grain stuff and all natural types of carbs. And these complex carbs are paired with fiber in them, which makes them slower to digest. But those complex carbs, or the refined carbs, spike your glucose much more. So stay away from the refined carbs and go towards the complex carbs. So how this relates to our meal is I've deliberately picked out some foods to cook for you all and ask to be brought that all have different effects on your glucose levels, but all are relatively healthy and all have benefits for your health. So first, we have our fiber and our salad and our veggies right here. And fiber is very useful in regulating glucose, because when you digest fiber, it creates a mesh within your stomach, which slows the speed at which glucose is digested. Because of this, if you have this before any of the other foods here, as I mentioned, your glucose spike will be much lower. So next, we have our protein seen in uh, the chicken and wild rice dish I prepared along with lettuce wraps. So not only is protein a great material for your muscles to build mass, it is also a slower way for your body to create energy. So whenever possible, protein is a better alternative than carbohydrates um, for getting your energy. Although you can't completely swap it out, having more protein than carbohydrates is definitely beneficial. So there's also some fats in this meal, in the salad in particular. There are walnuts and avocados. And fats are really useful in regulating your blood sugar if eaten in moderation. If eaten in moderation with carbohydrates, fats get your body primed to take in those carbohydrates. So the fats get the body ready to secrete that insulin, which then decreases the amount of blood sugar. But if you eat too much of these fats, then the insulin response will be too high and that will be harmful. So lastly, carbs. I've talked pretty harshly on carbs as they do spike your blood sugar the most, but they are necessary within the body because our bodies do run on glucose. So the pasta and wild rice that has been prepared along with bread is definitely necessary in a meal, but I would tell you all to take a more conservative portion and look to the other parts of the meal to get your real nutrients. So all of these foods were created with most healthy ingredients I could find. And like say the bread's created with cottage cheese in it, which is very high in protein and paired with the carbs and makes it uh, a decrease in your glucose spike. And then in the salad, you have apple cider vinegar dressing. And apple cider vinegar is very good at regulating your blood glucose levels. So whenever you can incorporate that, it would be very beneficial. So a little recap of the tips and to give a few takeaways to this. So timing is key when you eat. Don't eat within 2 hours of going to bed, and you will see an increase in your sleep quality and an increase in your glucose health the next day. And if you consider having active exercise after a meal, then your blood sugar will be greatly decreased. Next, avoid refined and processed sugars because those are much worse for you than those of the complex sugars and much easier for your body to digest, much quicker for them to digest, and your spike will be much higher. And if you were to take one thing away from this, it would to be eat your fiber first. To eat your greens first in this is such a great and pretty easy tip to greatly reduce your glucose spikes. And this is really the order of which you want to eat your fiber, your protein, your fats, and then your carbs. And then that is the optimization of how you want to eat. And if you're interested in a topic like this, I would greatly recommend reading The Glucose Revolution. It's where I got a lot of my information, a lot of the tips, and it is a great and informative read, and I would recommend it to you all. So before I get to questions, I would really like to thank everyone who helped make this presentation possible. And I'd like to leave you all with the notion that eating healthy and caring for your blood glucose doesn't mean going on a strict diet, going vegetarian, going keto. It means just following a few simple tips and being conscious of how different foods affect your blood glucose. So with that, thank you all for listening to my presentation. And now I'll take some questions if anyone has some. Coach Tim. So caffeine can work to help raise your cortisol as well. And cortisol does have a positive correlation with blood sugar. So more caffeine, more blood sugar.
It does not need any more caffeine.
Exactly.
I know in athletics, especially with the game next day, a lot of people talk about carbo loading. Is that just like the benefit of getting carbs in your diet before you go to bed? Is that negated by the glucose you have before you go to bed?
So it's really about that timing. If you have if you have your glucose spike uh, 2 hours before you go to bed, then your sleep quality won't really be affected. Uh, but really, for that long term, if you're trying to load energy the night before, then the proteins or fats will be much better for long term. But in the short term, carbs will give you the biggest boost in energy. Luke?
Mike, how from your presentation to raise your blood sugar you can eat? Is there an easy, quick way to lower it?
So all the tips that I gave kind of lowered your blood sugar, but the biggest way, if you have very high blood sugar, is to exercise because the sugar in your blood will be absorbed by your muscles when you're working them out or when you're running or doing anything. It'll be taken out of your blood into your muscles, which will decrease the concentration in your blood. Anyone else? C-Flow?
Do you see similar spikes in your glucose levels when you eat fruit as a snack in the middle of the day? What would you suggest as healthy snacks stay around from 9:50 to like 10?
It's pretty specific, but a lot of people think that fruit's bad. Some people think fruit's bad for your health because it has a lot of sugar in it. But fruit also has fiber in it, which I said that lowers that glucose response. So I'm all for fruit, and eating in the morning, especially, it really correlates with when you woke up. But eating in the morning is a lot more important because, say, you have a really sugary breakfast, your glucose will spike and then crash. And at that crash, you'll feel much more hungry for a prolonged part of the day. So if you have a really moderate snack in the morning, then you'll be much better off during the day.
And how about as far as breakfast? What would you recommend for a good breakfast to keep your glucose from spiking?
So a good breakfast would be have fiber, protein, fats in excess, and then a decrease in carbs because carbs and any processed sugar is really bad for you right in the morning. So one of my favorites is just avocado toast. Even though the toast is carbs, it will be kind of negated by that fat in the avocado. So something like that, or eggs. Eggs are great. And yeah, thank you all.